Everybody, welcome back. I'm Deez. This is my workshop, and today we need to fix this thing. This is the rapid handle for, well, the Mill Vise, and there's a few things that I need to improve on. I thought I would, use the materials I had and go as cheap as I could, because, that's kind of the point of a lot of what we're doing, right? We're trying to use what we have to make things that will improve our lives and our workshop, and this was a tool. It really worked out well. The design, I really like, but there's a couple things that are flawed. The first one was the choice of the socket that I used. This was one that my dad had extra. I asked my brother and my dad, you guys got a 14 millimeter socket that's extra that you don't use? My dad said, yeah, I got one. This was from some cheap set that you can get for probably free, if anything, some donation or some cheap $1.50 set, Harbor Freight, whatever. But look at that. This is the problem. I milled a flat on this. I milled it down so it would be flush with this center bore. So when I put this on here, all this would be flat and flush. So I kind of milled down the back end, and I put a flat on here so I could tighten that set screw, this one, down and lock it into place. But look, this must be made out of Play-Doh. Pretty sure that's the technical material they used. This is so soft, the socket, which I'm really surprised. This is a socket. You would think that this thing would be harder than that, although this is a cheap, crappy set, right? This is nothing. So this just didn't work out. This particular socket was way too soft, and the pressure that one set screw was putting on there just spun out and would tear through the material. Perhaps if I put 3 set screws in there, it would hold better, but I'm gonna try something different. There was another inherent problem, and you can see it. That depth is so short. I mean, this is the depth that we have. That's not much. That is not even a 1/2 of an inch depth to put onto the Mill Vise handle. And so when I would use the rapid handle and I would spin it out, oftentimes this would just fall off onto the floor. One time it hit my big toe. I got a little bruise. I need to fix this. So I'm gonna ditch this, and we're gonna go with this. I got a deep well socket. This was $3, $4 on Amazon. It's a gear wrench. I thought, okay, this thing's gonna be tough. Hopefully it's hardened. If we look at the depth, there's a little shelf in there. So let's measure that. That's about to there. There's your depth. I'm just pushing this down there until it stops. So there's our depth for this gear wrench. And if we measure that, we have 1.25 inches of depth to, well, just shy of 1.25 inches. And the turning mechanism, the hex bolt that's on the Mill Vise, is not that deep. So this is going to be what we're going to do. Now, we have a couple things that are a problem. This bore is too small. It won't fit in there. So we got to put this back in the lathe, chuck this up, and bore this out a little bit further to accommodate this. And then we need to put a flat on this. But before we do any of that, we need to cut this down. So again, I've got this much to play with, which means that I need to basically cut the rest of that off. I don't need any of this other material back here. It's not going to be helpful for this particular project, and it's just going to make this thing stick out farther. Now, one caveat: because of the depth of this thing will stick out, I don't know, about 1/2 inch, and I'm fine with that. I want as much material possible to sit onto the shaft that I can, and we can always turn this down later, but I just want to get this thing in there and see if we can use it properly as designed and not have this thing fall off of there when I'm using it. So the first thing we're going to do is get this cut to size. Then we'll put this on the lathe, clean up the back side. We'll put this in the mill, and we'll put a flat on the end, and that will be the operations we need for this. Then we'll chuck this up in the lathe, We'll bore this out a little bit deeper until this has just the ever so slight slip fit, and we will tighten that up. Well, that's much harder. That's a good thing. Well, let's do it the old school way. Now that ain't gonna work. Good grief. You get the point. I'm gonna let this cool off, flip it over, and we'll finish it off. Yeah, we made a real mess. This blade is broke. I'm still trying to cut through this, but we almost have it. Let's keep going. Well, that gear wrench socket is much harder than the other Taiwanese made one, which who knows where it was made. These are still a little bit warm, but as you can see, I broke a bunch of these little grinding discs off the Dremel. No big deal. I got a bunch of those. Here's again the Taiwan one, which is, it's made out of Play-Doh. It's made out of the softest material. I'm really surprised by that. Fortunately, this was a smaller diameter than the gear wrench, so I can bore that out to fit this one instead of having it loose in there. So I'm happy about that. Again, we're not going to use that one. This is the gear wrench, still warm. This is the piece we want. I need to put this in the lathe and just face down this and clean it up. It's going to be hard. I'm going to probably burn some carbide, but I don't care. I'm going to clean this up and make this smooth. Once you can see the lip and part of that, I just want to clean all that up, and then this will be our workpiece. This is going to be discarded. Of course, I will put it in the scrap bin because it does have a nice 3/8 inch 3/8 socket. I don't know what I could use this for, but who knows? You know, I could face this off and we could put a bushing in there and some adapter, and you know, who knows? This could be a cool project someday. Don't throw this kind of stuff away. This goes in the scrap bin. You never know. Okay, we've got our socket we need to do some facing off and do some chamfering on this. So we'll get this mounted in here. Oh, about there. I think that'll do. It's going to be hard. Like I said, we're going to use carbide, and if I ruin some carbide, that's okay. It's a hard piece of steel, but I want to get this face down. I think we killed that carbide. Let's flip this a corner and we'll see how we do. One more chamfer. We got to chamfer the inside. Looks nice. Nice and chamfered. That's going to work out really good. There's our part. This is our finished part that will actually go in here. Turned out really nice. Got everything chamfered. It's hard for sure, but we got it. See, just a little ridge on the back. I could cut more off, but I don't think I'm going to. I know it's going to stick out a little bit, proud, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. And if it is, I can always come back in here and cut some of that down. But the next thing we're going to do is put this piece in the mill, and we are going to put a flat on here. I'm just going to use my V-blocks for that. Easy peasy. I'm not going to do opposite sides. I just need to put a flat in there, so I'm gonna use the V-blocks, and we'll do a flat in there. That way we can tighten it down in here. Turned out pretty good though. Had a little boo-boo here on the end, but I don't care. That's as far as I'm going to go for what we're doing. I want to leave as much meat here as I can, so we're done. We have our milling operation done. We have our flat milled into our new piece. This is, again, certainly much harder than this thing. And I think it's going to turn out well. This is really well made, by the way. If you want some gear wrench sockets, these things are nice. The next thing we need to do is take these handles off, and we need to bore this out a little bit deeper. Let's take this set screw out. May have to use a wrench. There we go. And another wrench. Wrench here. There we go. Let's get these out of there. And we need to bore this out on the lathe to depth so that this piece can sink into there. I'm going to make it as tight as I can, and then we'll get this in here. We'll put our set screw in, and hopefully this takes care of that issue. we are making progress. As you can see, I tried to use my steel V-blocks and they're just too big for that vise, and I had to resort to something else, which was my homemade V-blocks. These worked out fantastic. Really glad I made these. They worked for this project. I was able to put my flat in my socket. I did have a boo-boo. I went a little too deep. I didn't want to go that deep, so rather than just forcing it that depth, I decided to just make it shallower and leave the blemish, because that's going to be hidden anyway. I'd rather have more meat up here than, you know, match that blemish. I don't care. I want this thing to have more meat here. This is harder steel for sure, but anyway, I decided not to just carry through with that, and I went with a shallower cut. Regardless, this is going to work. We have our hole bored out further, deeper, larger anyway, and this, we did a test fit. It's pretty close. It's a pretty tight fit. There's really not much wiggle room there. That's going to work out. We can get that in there like this, and then get our set screw in there. This will stick out just a little bit, and it just is what it is. I think what I'm going to do though, well, these will stick out too far. I like the look of these being in farther. The problem is I probably need to cut some of these threads down, but I really don't want to. I don't know. If I didn't, these would be out kind of like that. Let's see. If we were to put this in there, as far as I can get it, this is still going to, yeah. I don't like the looks of that. So if we were to put this in a minute, put these in, and then set this in here. Yeah, I don't know. You know what? I think I'm going to have to. I think I'm going to have to turn down some of those threads, because they are also causing part of this problem. Because if you look here, the set screw is right on the edge. Yeah. Well, that's what we're going to do. I guess I'm not done yet. I need to put some, yeah. I'm going to go ahead and turn down some of these threads so that they don't impede this piece here. Yep. I guess we're not done yet. All right, we did a little lathe work. I think we're going to be pretty good now. They're going to be close anyway. Again, like I said, this will stick out, but I may turn some of that down later. But this is where we want it. Slip fit in there, right there. It's as far as it's going to go in. Let's see how these handles do. I just want them to nest in there and look good, and they do. That's what we were going for. So the time now is, I think, to reassemble this and do a test. The first thing I want to do, because I want this seated down there as far down as I can get it, is to slide this in, capped it there, and get our set screw going to lock it in, and then we'll put our handles on. There we go. All right, lock that. There we go. Lock that in. I could use Loctite on that, but again, it wouldn't have mattered with this because it just chewed away. Really hoping that this socket is much harder and therefore not a problem. So let's get our handles in here. There's one. There's two. Let's give them a tweak. There's two, nice and tight. And number three. We got the redesigned, it's not redesigned, but the improved rapid handle with a better socket. Had to bore that out. I think it's going to work better. Everything's tightened down. Let's go give this a test over on the mill and close out this video. Here we go. How are we doing here? Let's give this a shot. That goes on there much further. I can spin, oh, that's way better already. I could tell this doesn't just want to fall off of there because I got a lot more meat. Yeah, the original design was flawed because of the shortness of that socket. Way better, way better. Now, I still got some adjustments to do in this vise. It's got some tight spots. I'm trying to keep it tight so we don't have the jaw lift. I'm still working on that, but there we go. Much better. Take my advice, use a longer socket. Don't use a really shallow socket. You're gonna regret it. And yeah, those cheap sockets are too soft. Works great. Rapid handle improvement. Now I got my rapid handle back. I'm ready to use it. Hope you enjoyed this video. It's just another tool improvement video, but that's what we do here in the workshop. We just make things a little bit better than they were. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you on the next one.